Welcome to the ☍𝕉∍ Witchcraft podcast.
Chris, who are we being interviewed by today?
Yeah, we are definitely going to get interviewed today. You do know that, right? It won't be us. We've got Meet the Mapmaker today.
Meet the Mapmaker. So it's a special day today, isn't it?
Very special day.
Why is it a special day?
Oh, something about the baby Jesus, that one.
Well, no, I know the baby Jesus is apparently reported to have been born today, on the 25th of December, 2022. But actually it's a special day because it's an interview, isn't it? With a legend.
I am not a legend.
No? Do you not
Nope.
think you're a legend?
She's
No, I know I'm not.
Well, we talk about you all the time, so you kind of must be, surely. People know you by a pseudonym.
Yeah.
So that's kind of somewhat legendary, no?
If you want it to be, today it can be.
I mean, you're quoted often.
Let's not start with the quotes. Yeah, that could happen.
Chris, do you know what was your favorite Mapmaker quote? Do you have one?
I don't think I do.
You don't have a favorite one?
No.
Ooh.
Quoting the Mapmaker's your thing.
Well, I've got a couple here. You see, I think I have a sweet spot for the first ever one. This is the one that made me start writing them all down, you see, cataloguing them, right? Can you remember your first ever quote that we stole from you, Mapmaker?
No, I honestly don't. You've got like 13 or 14 now, so who keeps track?
We've almost got 13, almost, I think. This one, you tell us whether it sounds like you, and we can start off with this. We'll base this. In fact, we should base our questions based on the Mapmaker's quotes. I think that would be brilliant, wouldn't it? I mean, we could ask her what she gets up to, magically speaking, but I'm sure a lot of that's secret, isn't it?
A lot of it will go over people's heads, I think, is the problem.
I think I can just put her on the spot and ask her, what did you mean by this? So this quote, the deficiency is in the thought process of the practitioner. What do you mean by that?
It would depend on what we were talking about at the time, but generally speaking...
Wiccans.
Yeah, Wiccans. A lot of your practitioners think things don't work, and it's not really that they didn't work, it's that they didn't think about it in the right way. So they got what they asked for. The deficiency there wasn't in what they did, it's in how they thought it out.
So you have no sympathy for people that get things wrong, or is this
well, did they get it wrong, though, or did they just not think it through correctly? I don't think they need sympathy. It's a learning experience.
Okay.
I think what she's saying, Liam, is that it's not all about the intention.
It's not all about the intention.
No.
It's all about the results, I always think.
And how do you get results, Liam?
To a certain extent, the journey. It's either about the journey or the destination. Sometimes potentially both. But normally, if you're going on for a jolly in the countryside, you don't really care about where you're going. You're just going for the thrill of having a wander about in the countryside. Whereas if you're going somewhere and you need to be there at a specific time to do a specific thing, that's all about destination. Yeah, I think. What do you think about the general state of magical people? Mapmaker.
Let's just say it's why I don't interact with most of them.
Oh. Do you think there's a lot of deficiencies?
Yeah.
Where do you think these deficiencies stem from, though? Do you think these deficiencies stem from a thought process? Is it just that there is a snowflake generation, as they say? Or is it something else?
I honestly don't know. My own background is so different than everything else I've ever come across. I'd be hesitant to pick. I think it's probably pretty individualized. Everybody's got their own place they started and how they learned. So there's no uniformity to it.
Can you talk a little bit about your background then? Because you have quite an interesting background.
Not having formal teachers.
Didn't you only just get electricity or something?
Well, actually, we did about 24 hours ago. We just got electricity back. We've been out for a while. So I'm completely in the forest. People are optional. People have always been optional. I had no access to any form of book, Other teachers, nothing. Probably until I was well into my 20s. When I went away to college, I ended up with a Wiccan roommate. You can imagine how much fun that year
Oh,
was.
wow.
Deep
Is that
rooted
Wiccan roommate still alive, may I ask?
Yes. Yep. She's still alive, and I check in on her periodically. But
What,
it
in the
was
psych ward?
no,
You
no.
visit? In the padded cell, she's just rocking forwards and backwards and babbling incoherently.
Yeah, I didn't have to lock her up for that. But yeah, so no formal education, no books, no correspondences. Internet's pretty new. We are exceptionally remote. So basically, I had to learn myself. So I got started more or less with my first contract when I was pre-kindergarten. And that got me some teachers, essentially. And then I've upheld that magical contract. It's still going. We've tweaked it a few times over the years because obviously I'm older and situations change. But yeah, so magical entities, the earth itself, the natural world, that was my education.
When you say magical contract, can you share a little bit about that? Because if anyone was to be some sort of, kindergarten, they call it kindergarten, don't they?
Yeah, over here.
Yeah, kindergarten hit witch. If anyone was to be, I can imagine it would be you. First magical contract taken out on the soul of someone. She's there on her way to school with her lunchbox. I'll do it on the way home.
Basically, my first magical contract was an agreement. I'm going to, I don't know, I guess, obtain education, however it saw fit to offer it. And in return, basically, I'm tied to here. I belong to the land now.
Land.
So
That's why she has to work so hard.
Yeah. And then we had a witness for the contract, of course, because you always want one of those. And whenever I've had to renegotiate it, we've just called the original witness back and renegotiated as necessary.
So how has that interfered with either your actual life, so from a mundane perspective, or your magical kind of work and stuff like that, having a contract like that that is quite a firm basis? Is it constrained to a certain extent, just perhaps not in the ways people think?
Yeah, I travel, but only, let's just say I'm going to run it by it first. I'm not going to go. I went away once for 16 days, and that was probably a 3-month setup. Tend not to travel exceptionally far. Don't travel if without notice, if at all possible. After about 3 days, the pull to get back starts getting a little bit uncomfortable. After 7 days, it's just plain ugly. So that can impact your mundane life because, like I said, I don't travel unless I've kind of run it past everything first. There's a whole setup and process that's involved. And then I'm always aware while I'm gone, we're not really constrained by distance. So if any of the wards or anything I have here protectively gets triggered while I'm gone, it's an absolute pain to deal with. So I tend not to travel a whole lot. That's not to say that I don't, but it's not something I do. I'm not moving off of here, so lived my entire life here. College was crazy because I had to do my schedule for 2.5 days. I was gone very short stints, and then I was right back. So if you're looking for an active social life, it ain't going to happen.
So is that a contract or an agreement that you have ever regretted?
I wonder sometimes if it would be different if I hadn't, but I don't regret it under any circumstances. Because I really don't remember a time very well before it. It's after this many years completely ingrained. Waking, sleeping, whatever you're doing, you're always aware of it. So if it was missing now, I think it'd be kind of strange if it wasn't around. We had a little bit of a feud last July. It broke its side of the contract, and we had to wait for the negotiations to, I guess, get set out. And so I kind of clamped down on it. And it was a weird month without that constant ebb and flow. It was unsettling. It wasn't anything I couldn't handle, but it was definitely odd. having it crack down that hard and not being able to just let it go like it normally does.
Interesting. So you don't regret it. What would you sum up that agreement to be? Was it some sort of like your custodian or guardian or what?
I'm here to preserve it and make sure that it stays safe. It has, not everything is in English, so me translating it is kind of weird, but essentially, you know, it's got a set of parameters it wants to maintain. My job's to make it happen. I'll spend my entire life doing that. If I'm good and lucky, I'll be able to pass it to someone else. There are other practitioners in my family. I have 2 children, but none of them have any interest in that. So eventually I'll probably pass one to one of the kids, but it's going to go under whichever one is most likely to be able to preserve it and go forward. So, but I'll be here forever.
So does this preservation of land often involve you burning down other people's houses, or do you just do that for sport?
No, that was something else entirely.
Can you tell us that story?
I guess so. I've had an entity that's been, I don't want to say pressuring, but been pretty persistent. It wanted a particular universe burned out. And it's been after me for quite a while. Back in July, we had apparently the time was right or whatever. So it was extremely persistent. And I decided that I was tired of listening to this thing constantly tapping, trying to get my attention to go do this. So I said, all right, I'll go do it. But you're playing with literal fire and bigger entities. So I thought that, you know, it's always wise to have everything laced down pretty tight. So it was a very extensive, exhaustive list of what may not happen. As above, so below. So there's always a chance for some blowback when you're doing something really big like that. So again, used the land here, set my bounds, gave it the whole list of all the things it was not allowed to affect. And then literally probably 30 feet outside the bounds, everything started to go to pieces. The nearest neighbor, which is probably 0.2 of a mile away, their house burned to the ground. Then another house in a neighboring town we went through like a week where houses were burning down. People were getting sick. It was kind of crazy around here for a while. But nothing that is under my, I don't know, we were going to call it protection or whatever. Jurisdiction. Yeah, that's a good word for it. None of it was affected. Everything was perfectly fine. It got its universe burned out, and here we are.
And she also stole someone's car once as well, I remember.
Oh, yeah, the car.
I don't know how magical that was, though.
She borrowed it.
I bought it back. I didn't steal it.
Borrowed it without permission.
That's questionable.
Something gave permission.
Something gave permission.
Something gave permission.
Oh. Right. Okay. So in terms of, obviously, you're quite accomplished in terms of a magical practitioner, because you've come and you've found us and you've started interacting with other magical people from a position and a place where you've actually been practicing for a long time. You've built up your own practice essentially from scratch. There's a lot of people don't. A lot of people kind of are interested and they try to seek out other people. I think that there's probably a quote related to this. Let's see. A cute book in a metaphysical shop is not going to help you with the grit needed to get what you want.
Yeah, that's probably still true.
So for advice then for other people out there that really want to get to the position that you've got to, what's the best advice you can give? Not putting you on the spot or anything.
Yeah. Boy, I don't know. I tend not to give advice if I can avoid it. I guess the thing to do is to quit worrying about what everybody else is doing and worry more about what you are doing. I see a lot of people who move from, I don't know, type to type to type. I don't know if it's like the Jelly a Month Club or what, but they're just keep moving. You got to pick something and settle. And it doesn't have to be a particular type. I have no idea what you'd call what I do. It's just what I do. And honestly, I think I probably made out better. At the time when I was younger, I was always worried because I'm like, well, I've never read a book. I've never run into another practitioner. Who knows if I'm doing this right or not? After a while, I just quit worrying about that and focused on what I was doing. I think that did me more good than if I kind of am happy now. At the time, I thought I was missing something. Clearly, I haven't missed a thing. And I really think if you just put all that stuff down and just go actually work with it yourself, you're better off.
I think we can well and truly attest to the fact that you really haven't missed anything. You know, a big part of what we do involves kind of scratch testing people, and I don't think there's a single test we've ever done you've not passed with flying colours. So I think it's one of those kind of things where it's kind of like, I think you're testament to the fact that actually, even if you had no access to any of this, that actually if you're willing to put the work in, you can get to wherever you need to get to. I think too many people kind of go, I need the latest book, or I need to know what's going on with the latest, because it's probably the world we live in, I imagine, in the West, where you're always kind of soundbitey culture of kind of going, oh, that's the latest. Oh, I missed the latest. What did the news say today? What did Facebook tell me that I should have known today? Like, people are so used to kind of never really kind of bathing in anything, you know, where they just kind of let it all soak in at a kind of natural pace. Everybody's kind of like, oh, I haven't learned it quick enough. Must learn the next thing.
Well, you've always got loads of projects on the go, haven't you? And I think you're one of those people that like to see things to completion, but realize it's not necessarily always going to happen overnight or immediately. But what are some of the issues that you see with our various, let's say, our Facebook groups and such that you've been in a couple of times, and that where do you see any issues with people's approach? Because you've mentioned about potentially comparing each other or picking up on what the current latest trend is and that kind of thing. Are you seeing any trends that you just shake your head at?
Well, I've tapped out of pretty much all the Facebook groups. I'm still in your two, and that's pretty much it. There's a certain rhythm to the drama in your groups. I like to kind of lay private bets with myself as to when the next round is going to kick off. So far, I've got a pretty good average on that one. I like to see what everybody's doing. Like, sometimes I wish I could post more. There's literally nothing to see with what I do. So it's not like I'm going to post a pretty picture. There's literally nothing to see. I don't use anything like most people would think. So it's fun to look at them. I get a little bored sometimes because we do all get on a wonderful kick once in a while. It looks like everybody's doing the same thing. I think egregores was big. The October before last, there was a whole stint. Everybody seemed to be making one. One of the things I am disappointed is nobody follows up on how that turned out. For like 3 weeks, everybody's making egregores, and then you never hear any more about what happened with that. I'd like to know whether that worked out for them or not. I don't think anybody has a right way or a wrong way. You got to have the way that works for you. But I'm kind of curious to see, did that way work? It's maybe not the way I would have done it, so I'm interested to see how it panned out for somebody else. But yeah, I'm usually lurking around the two groups pretty often during pretty much every day, just for entertainment value and to see what's going on.
I've got really bad lately. I'm not as engaged in them as I used to be. I think it's mainly because they seem to kind of run themselves these days. And we've got some very useful mods, but it's just one of those. Yeah, there's always a wave, isn't there? Every now and again, there's just a wave of something everybody is kind of involved in. But yeah, I'd wonder whether or not, is it a case that people are scared to share the outcome because it didn't go the way they wanted it to, or they can't explain the outcome. I think sometimes that's the other one, is they're not sure how to explain it, so they don't talk about it.
Could be. It could be. The other time, I sometimes wonder if they don't just get bored and move on to the next thing and leave it hanging there, which would drive me crazy. I'm a little OCD about that. If you're starting it, I'm finishing it. It may not work out, but I'm going to see it through.
Some people get funny about giving too much away as well, about their personal lives or about their practices and stuff like that. And I've met a couple of people that it's always quite interesting because they want to share, they want to talk, but they're worried about how much other people are going to know about them or know about their practice. And there are those that are absolutely scared to death that other people in the group are going to fuck with them, which I'm not saying that can't necessarily happen, but you know, it is what it is. But you say about obviously not having a huge amount of interaction with other practitioners, not being taught, but I know that in your area, you've obviously encountered what would you call folk magic, that kind of thing by people?
Yeah, there's a lot of folk magic-y stuff going on. Like, they're mundanes. I don't know that they would necessarily call it magic. It's tradition. It's what their grandparents did. The other thing is I'm in a demographic here where 65 is the average age, and you know, you got like very few people. So you know, they're doing what their great grandparents did, and they just keep doing it. They don't know why they're doing it. They don't really understand what it does. They just know if they do it, things work out. Nobody's looking to complicate their life, so they just carry on with it. We've had a few Wiccans move in the area. They don't last here. They do not last.
Do you
I imagine it's too wild for them.
Yeah, probably.
Well,
it's too natural.
Yeah, nature's all fine and good until there's a bear on your front porch.
Yeah, or attack geese. Do you ever use these people and their practices, you know, to your advantage though? Because if they don't really know what they're doing and they're quite predictable like clockwork, do you ever use that, or do you just? Sure. Oh, you do.
Sure. Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't I? Why would I waste it? It's right there. It depends on the person and the situation, and the fun part is literally nobody knows I practice. So what they do know is that if they have a problem, I can fix it. And if there is a disaster of any form, it's going to end up on my doorstep. That's literally, I've left calls with you guys and found bleeding people in my living room waiting for somebody to come stitch them up or something. It happens all the time, pretty much daily. I got a break to Christmas apparently, and nobody's set anything on fire, but yeah, they're going to show up. It's early yet. They're going to show up. They're going to have problems. They're going to know that something isn't right. They've got a sick animal. There's no vets here, so I'm the vet. Their cow's having trouble. Their sheep is having trouble. Something is sick, and they'll try what little stuff they know. And when they don't know, I'm going to get a phone call. Yeah,
the most important thing is that if we're on a conference call, they can sit and wait bleeding because we're more important.
Yeah, pretty much. In this particular instance, oh yes.
Oh, that's quite sweet in a way. Oh. Okay, right. Let's go off to another quote then. Right. So here's an interesting one that brings up ethics. Okay, it's one of our favorite subjects, isn't it, Chris?
We do love them ethics.
This one. Once you're on the tiered system, you never come off it. Cross me, and you'll never have existed in the first place.
Yep.
So I guess you could explain that, but what I'd be interested in exploring is how far you go with working against others in not particularly nice ways. Because you don't like to draw attention, do you, to yourself?
Nope. No, I don't. And I like a long range plan. I know everybody's into instant gratification. That's not my thing. I will set stuff in motion, and I am content. Wait as long as it takes. So yeah, I have the tiered system, which I'm sure you guys are aware about, but essentially there are very few things I actually will concern myself with. For the most part, I really don't care what anybody does. It's none of my business, and it doesn't matter at all to me. I've got my own stuff going on. But there are a few things that are very specifically under my jurisdiction, and that I'm responsible for. And if something messes with any of those things, then I'm going to, depending on the size of the infraction, either really chastise it or destroy it utterly. And it's just going to depend. But usually, in the few times that I've had people meddle with other people on my tiered system, I have campaigns to pretty much destroy their lives. But I do it in a nice long-term way. They're not gonna drop dead next week. It's going to be a long
drawn
slow, painful drop down. You're going to lose your business. You're going to lose your wife, your house, your finance, respect to the community. And around here, that's probably the worst thing you can lose is community respect. So I'm just going to start a campaign to completely destroy everything you've got. And when you're absolutely miserable, then I'm going to leave you like that for 10 or so years. And eventually you'll probably either die of, I don't know, alcoholism or pick some other thing, or, you'll have a heart attack and get finished off.
So you're not really into rehabilitation. You're more into punishment.
There's very few things I've run into that has messed with anything of significance on my tier system that it's actually rehabilitatable. Usually if they're in that, they're looking to cause problems, and I'm not here to deal with their nonsense. I've got my own projects going on, and they're more important. So we're just going to eliminate the problem.
One of the homeworks that I think it was either me or Chris, I can't remember who said it, was a little project which involved the Cruciatus curse and instantaneous magic. Now, one could say that that's potentially not a very nice thing to do, because you inflicted that upon, was it a town council meeting or something?
It was a historical society meeting, but yes.
Yes, historical society meeting. Now, your morals must, bend to a certain extent to do something like that on a group of poor mundanes. Or were they not all mundanes? I don't know.
Yeah, they're all mundanes.
People. I mean, surely you might not necessarily be the most moral person in the world. You obviously mess with people now.
Rarely, usually because one of you guys ask it.
Oh, come on. You can't blame us because you agree to it. Therefore,
well, that's why I'm doing it.
Fault.
Well, it's completely my fault I'm doing it.
I don't think there's been that many things you've refused to do. Oh, that was it. The changeling thing.
Yeah.
You
still not getting your changeling.
No changelings and no immaculate conceptions.
Nope.
For transsexuals, no?
But partly that, I imagine that's because the demographics in their 60s. I don't think it's a good idea to go around making 60-year-olds pregnant, Liam.
If anyone could pull it off, she could pull it off.
I'm sure she could, but that doesn't mean that really she should. Like, that draws far too much attention. Geriatric pregnancies cause a lot of stir.
Who doesn't like a bit of geriatric pregnancy, though? No?
I think that's down to you wanting to be awful, and stir the pot as much as you possibly can.
Well, there is a Mapmaker quote actually that covers this, because when asked about killing too many mundanes, she said, "After a while, the mundanes pick up on that." So it is a case of, I suppose, several houses burning down or exploding.
Yeah, they're a little.
90-year-old Ethel, she's now pregnant. Yeah, there'd be a lot of news crews, knocking on the doors and asking questions and such, I guess. But speaking of which, what have you got against the French?
I have nothing against the French.
Oh.
What do you have against the French, Liam?
I dislike the Parisians, I have to say. But don't you have a little project that involves...
The trees are taking over Paris.
The trees are taking over the frogs, yes. Oh, but that's a little long and drawn out, isn't it?
It is. I had to roll back time a little bit and start it, and then come forward and now just let it go. They're trees. It's going to take them a while. They don't grow overnight.